What's the most shocking secret someone has revealed to you? When I was 11, I had a friend reveal that her stepmother was abusing her. She made me promise not to say anything to my mom or any other adult. I agreed. We had weekly therapy sessions with a guidance counselor if you wanted it, so it was my day to go, and I just felt like I needed to tell, so I did. The counselor ended up reporting it and CPS got involved and my friend was made to live with her mother. She was so angry at me for telling, but I felt it in my soul that I should. We are still friends to this day, both of us 29 years old. I own a shop which smells of essential oils, and I look like your favorite auntie, a sweet older lady. So people come in, drop their shoulders, emotionally detox, and tell me things they wouldn't share with a therapist. I'm okay with it. The worst one was a beautiful young girl who was raped by her sister's boyfriend when she was 16. She was a virgin and this was her first sexual experience. She told her very Christian family and they didn't believe her. Did not believe her. He was invited to family dinners and would smirk at her across the table. He was even engaged to her sister for several years. She got zero support from her appalling family and literally moved across the world to get away from them. As she was talking to me, the trauma was clear and it was going to be lifelong. The sexual assault was horrific, but the betrayal by family was as bad or worse. Remember where I said I look like your favorite sweet auntie? Well, I would go to war for that girl. I would shank the guy and destroy the so-called Christian family. My loathing for people who don't believe a 16-year-old baby is absolute. My former mother-in-law, in her early 50s at the time, suddenly had a friend who was slightly older than me, around 30 years old. I had just returned from a vacation with my ex, and we were a bit surprised by this new friendship. The friend originally came from the capital of the country where I live, but had moved about 100 kilometers away. She told us that she ended up in this new place because she had to undergo rehabilitation after a car accident in which her husband had died, and she had also suffered a miscarriage. She was incredibly nice, and I got along well with her. However, some of her actions raised doubts about the accuracy of her story. After some investigation, I discovered that her husband hadn't died in a car accident but had been shot and robbed. After a drug deal, he had come home with several million in a sports bag. She didn't want the bag in the house and sent him off with it. When he got into his car, he was riddled with bullets and died instantly. Her husband was the son of a notorious cocaine and heroin dealer wanted by Interpol. After 6 weeks, they also attempted to shoot her, which led to her being placed in a safe house, and she began rehabilitation in our city. At that time, my relationship with her was very good. I then made the choice to go to her one evening and tell her that I knew who she was and that she was still in danger. I didn't want to carry this secret, but I felt it was only fair to let her know that I was aware of it. She seemed relieved that her secret could now be shared with someone. However, I slowly let the contact with her fade away. I grew up in a similar environment, and I have a child now. Even though I was safe, I didn't want to expose my child to any risks. Her story is currently a series that can be streamed. After our first sex ed lesson at school, UK, so we were around 10 years old, year 6, a girl in my class told us she'd had sex. We were all laughing and telling her she was silly, and that wasn't true. She said that it was true, and that it was with her uncle. We were all baffled, and convinced that couldn't happen, so we laughed it off, cringe thinking about it. Jesus Christ. One of my friends told her family about the strange thing this girl had told us. And, thank fuck, her mother immediately clocked it for what it was. It got reported to school. Turns out the whole thing was true, she just hadn't known the name for what was happening to her before that lesson. I'm so glad that one girl thought to tell someone. We were kids, so I guess it makes sense that we didn't understand how that could be true, but still feel awful that we reacted that way. He got prosecuted. The girl got moved away from her extended family. We all got called in to be spoken to about what we'd been told, checked we were alright, etc., and then made to understand that it wasn't something we should gossip about, and that the girl would need friends. school handled it really well overall. My buddy, 29M, figured out last year that he's a sperm donor baby. His mom is Muslim and could not naturally conceive with his dad because he wasn't fertile. He found out through 23andMe and was confused about why the father listed wasn't his dad. He confronted his parents, who were separated, and talked to them individually. They confirmed that he was a sperm donor baby. I learned that in conservative Muslim culture, that's very frowned upon because religion and purity or whatever religious fucking bullshit. So not a single member of his family knew he wasn't his dad's actual kid. Turns out that he has 30 plus siblings, and they're all rad as hell. They do big trips. Sperm donor dad is one of the coolest dudes ever. Every member of the extended donor family is super tight with each other, and I've met 7 of his siblings so far, and I love every one of them. So, turned out pretty wholesome at least. Still wild. He went 28 years thinking he was an only child, and now he has a big-ass family. When I was in high school, one of my friends had missed about a month of school and work with no explanation. When she came back she was bubbly and happy and everything. I never asked her what happened because she'd get a big cagey if we got close to the subject. Flash forward about 10 years, she and I were casually talking, and I brought up how she dropped off the earth for a month in high school and never told me what happened. She finally told me what happened. Her father had been raping her regularly since she was in elementary school. In high school, he tried to rape her again and she finally snapped and stabbed him to death in self-defense. That month was spent in court and between a few doctors. They had plenty of evidence against her father, and the DA declined to press charges. Because she was a minor, everything was sealed. Her mother, who had no idea this had been going on, her parents had long been divorced, took her and essentially spent the rest of her life trying to make up for all the bad stuff that had happened. This by itself was shocking enough, but she shared with me one additional detail. It was the first stab that killed him. The other 20 times was just for her. This is rambling, but context is important. When I was 18 my dad was out of town and my mom started to spiral badly. She was schizophrenic, bipolar, a heavy alcoholic, and addicted to pain meds, and untreated for all of it, and I had to have her committed to a facility because I was afraid for her and her mental and physical well-being. I was a socially anxious kid and it was a huge step for me to coordinate, and I had her psychiatrist's full support. Less than a week after she got home, she attempted suicide with a knife and pills, and I was the one who found her. It was a major shaping point in my life, because my family was very hands-off with mental health, and my grandpa put the blame squarely on my shoulders, because I put her somewhere where she learned to do that. She just recently died this last year as a result of her life choices and mental health, and I've been going to therapy and realized just how much that guilt and accusation has shaped my adult life. I told my dad this last weekend about me going and about how much that memory has affected me. He said he remembered me telling him about what my grandpa had said at the time, which he had nothing to say about, then or now, and tiredly said that my mom used to threaten suicide so often to him that one day he loaded his shotgun and put it in her lap. Told her that if she was so serious about it to stop talking about it and do it, and then he left and went to work. My sister and I would have been in the house then as children, and he didn't spare us a single thought to what would have happened if she'd actually done it. He said he deserved to go to hell for doing it, but that he was just so done with her he couldn't think of any alternative. I'm still absorbing the fact that not only has he let me live with the guilt of the one attempt I was aware of for 2 decades, but he encouraged her to try to end herself way before the event that traumatized me so much. Needless to say, I don't think my days of therapy are done.